Welcome to SciTech Culture with Steve Kern and Ben Warner, where we examine science, technology, and culture in the 21st century. Visit our website at scitechculture.com. Alrighty, so depths of winter still. I happened to be in Hobart this past week, Steve, and I was shocked when, it was like 7:40 a.m. was the sunrise and 4:40 in the afternoon was sunset. I was just truly gobsmacked, and I thought, what am I getting close to the South Pole here or something?
You certainly are. There's, when it comes to Australia, there's not much further south than Hobart.
Absolutely, but lovely place. So encourage anyone, if you happen to be in Australia, go and check it out. It's quite nice.
Beautiful city.
Absolutely. All right, we've got a smattering of topics today, just kind of all over the place. But I got sent this video of Steve Ballmer, ex-Microsoft CEO, advertising Windows 1.0 back in 1986 or 5. I can't recall exactly, but about almost 40 years ago. And it was just a hilarious video, and I encourage you to check it out. Like, I'm sure it's there's plenty of options of it to watch it online, but just to see him do this sort of goofy used car salesman almost reject shop type ad where he's like spruiking the benefits of Windows 1.0. And I'm sure, back in the day, Windows 1.0 would have been amazing to look at in the mid 80s, but it looks kind of odd, and it almost doesn't even look kind of what Windows is now. but it was quite amusing to watch all of that, how Wild Westish, computing was in the 80s. And I know it started in the 70s, but the 80s is really where it kicked off, and obviously the 90s is when it really came into its own. But it was quite an interesting period and an interesting video to look at.
Oh, it definitely was. Was this his audition for the top job? Is this how he got noticed within Microsoft and then accelerated to the top? You've got to ask the question. But I think we forget, that pre-Windows, unless you had a Mac, of course, but pre-Windows, there was no Windows. And this was the first time on a PC that you could tie everything together. And I think that, the reality is that it's quite an exciting step forward. Although if you really look at it, it's not a very good product by any stretch of the imagination, particularly when, you would compare it to probably what the original Macintosh, was delivering. So I guess it's a line ball sort of thing, but it's a step up from just working in DOS.
Oh, absolutely. And I've vivid memories of working in DOS even in the early 90s when I first started getting those computers. But it's interesting, just as a final point, like I remember the Mac OS or whatever OS was called back then for the Mac. You can see where it's gone. Like I don't know if it's actually humongously different from a conceptual point of view, although Windows, on the other hand, I think it took another 10 years until Windows 95 before it turned into what it actually is now. Like, arguably, Windows 95 and Windows 11, like, you can kind of see, you can see how they're related.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think at Windows 95, we really took a step forward. Microsoft finally did what, Apple had achieved 10 years earlier. And still didn't get it quite right. But by Windows 11, you'd say really that there's not a whole lot of difference, certainly at a user level or interface level, between Windows or Mac OS.
Absolutely.
But only $99. Unbelievable. In the days back when they charged for operating systems.
Probably like $1,000 now. Alrighty. Okay. Switching gears. Back into the world of cinema. Now, not that I have, a lot of stories to talk about that, but I was amused by this story of Christopher Nolan beating out Tom Cruise to get that lucrative IMAX window for their respective films. So Nolan got his for Oppenheimer for 3 weeks, and Cruise was desperately trying to, secure those screens for Mission Impossible 7, I think they're up to. And he didn't get it. And largely, reading between the lines of the story, what I thought was most interesting is that I think it actually came down to relationships, because Nolan has been busy spruiking and promoting the use of IMAX through the fact that he actually shoots using it. So for them, it's like the ultimate advertisement. Come and see an IMAX film as shot by Christopher Nolan. I guess that's they probably calculated that that was a better marketing ploy for them as opposed to the latest Mission Impossible film, even though I'd argue they'd probably want both.
Oh, look, I would too, but I was a bit perplexed by this because I saw the Oppenheimer trailer just last night, and Mission Impossible, I can imagine on IMAX, but Oppenheimer, and not really knowing anything about the content, what it must have a lot of scenes where they blow shit up because, otherwise, what's the point of IMAX? I would have thought a movie called Oppenheimer is actually about a guy's life.
Yeah.
That's not really action. I would have thought that for an IMAX screen, you'd go and see Mission Impossible.
Well,
I don't know. What do I know anymore?
Unless you want to see that that first atom bomb going off in the IMAX screen.
But I have to be like, they're going to. I'm assuming surely that there's going to be a lot of amazing shots like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's certainly not going to be a guy sitting at a desk or staring at the ceiling trying to work out how to split the atom.
Absolutely. I mean, you have to go on faith, obviously, based on track record, but Nolan does tend to deliver a big screen experience with just about everything he does. So if he's found an angle for that, then hopefully it's faithfully replicated in IMAX.
Oh, yeah, let's hope so. Let's hope it's not gimmicky IMAX, like the 1950s 3D films.
Absolutely. Okay, just shifting track again. I'm going to get this pronunciation wrong for Saturn's moon. I don't even know if I want to say it. I actually did look it up. I got Google to pronounce it for me, and now it's gone completely out of my brain. But
Enceladus.
There you go, Enceladus. Yep, there you go. I knew I could trust you to know what it was, Steve. But I thought this was a really interesting thing, like the Cassini spacecraft that did its voyage and investigation of Saturn and its moons. This is the wonderful thing I find about all the exploration that's happening now of space, and the way that we're using all the latest technology to get more information. And this discovery that they found a key building block of life basically there. And that it was the element of phosphorus, which is a bit more, if you want to call it, rare compared to the other building blocks. That doesn't necessarily mean that obviously there's any life there or there was any possibility of life, but at least it just demonstrates that those elements are possible beyond Earth, basically.
Oh, well, absolutely. What's interesting about this is that, you go back 100 years, and as humans, we dreamt that there were aliens somewhere in the solar system, usually Mars. You go forward 50 years and we've started exploring our solar system. So by the end of the 1970s, we've sent a few probes out and we've decided there's no life in the solar system because the place is just too harsh. And now, another 50 years on from there, suddenly we're finding phosphorus, which is essential for DNA and RNA. We're finding oceans beneath ice caps, which could be habitable. And we're finding a whole raft of environments, even on Mars, which, 50 years ago we thought that it's dead. Now we're saying there could have been life, and maybe there even still is. And I think that what we're seeing now is that, the solar system could well have other life somewhere in it. It's not going to look like human life, and it's going to be very specific to its environments. But while they're hostile environments for humans and or mammals from the planet Earth, they might be wonderful places to live if you're some other organism.
Absolutely. But it also, even if there wasn't any life found, it kind of suggests the possibility that it could be elsewhere, that there are elements that are out there that are not just on Earth, and that we could eventually find it one day, even if it's beyond our solar system as well.
Yeah, completely. I mean, what it's showing is that the elements for organic life exist almost uniformly throughout our solar system. It's a reasonable bet then that they exist within every solar system. And then that would mean that a planet in the Goldilocks zone, if you want to be specific to the organic life that we know here on Earth, any planet in any solar system, anywhere in the vastness of the universe, may well have all the building blocks required to, under the right conditions, support organic life. What that means, we don't know. Could be little green people.
Absolutely, but it also highlights the idea that that sounds like it might be hard to assemble to get to that point, but the universe is so vast that almost the point of being mind-boggling beyond our comprehension about how vast it is, that it just has to happen one other time for it to show that it's possible.
Oh, absolutely. But, and that is the proviso that now I guess probability theorists and astrobiologists are saying, is that the likelihood of all those conditions being right are so rare that we're probably the only ones. But all I'm saying is that we've been wrong in the last 100 years so many times. Why shouldn't we be wrong now?
Absolutely.
Beam me up.
Absolutely. All right, and just our last topic for today, poor old AirTags, or basically any electronic device where we're trying to keep on top of our lost luggage or whatever else. Perfectly good use cases for these things, but also there's always these stories that they can be used for nefarious purposes, and in particular, one example being stalking of others, and. It's interesting that I don't, it's been around for a little while. Basically, I think it kind of gains traction when these tags have been around for a long time, but whenever Apple enters the market, they achieve a level of mainstream awareness, and obviously a lot more people have gone out and bought them. They're fairly inexpensive for an Apple device, although I'm sure they're the most expensive like AirTags or whatever compared to the competition or whatever. But it's seemingly making it much easier to track people. Basically, you can just stick one on somebody's car or slip it in a bag or something like that. And although Apple and the other tech companies are attempting to figure out software solutions, I guess, to highlight when an unknown tag is traveling with you, that it's still not really sufficient from what we're seeing. Because there's some pretty nasty stuff going on out there that they're going to have to address at some point in terms of fixing it all up.
Well, firstly, I don't believe the intent of Apple or anyone was for this to happen. This is just human ingenuity, obviously coming up with a solution, a nefarious solution. But you cannot tell me if my phone can detect, when I'm near my MacBook and decide that it's going to be my main camera, even though I've never asked it to. You cannot tell me that my phone cannot detect a tag that I didn't put somewhere right near me. It's another Apple device. So this is just, it's unreasonable of Apple, or in fact any device maker of this, not to be able to make that tag show up. Any Bluetooth device you'd find, I'm sure these tags probably work off a Bluetooth low power setting. There's absolutely no reason an Apple product, don't know about the others because they're generally a rabble, but an Apple product should be able to come out straight away and say, hey, there's a tag in the vicinity, and probably even tell you where it is.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess the other point that, and you kind of touched on it at the beginning there about, it's like I guess they don't come out with the idea of any of these devices being used for nefarious purposes, but just beyond AirTags, there's also any of the devices that come out, phones and whatever. Like I was actually thinking about like those 100 times zooms that are on some Android cameras, etc. Now, there's a wow factor to that. Oh, wow, I can take a zoom shot, 100 times, distance away. And then there's always someone that's going to use it to spy on someone in the opposite, apartment block or something like that. And it's just, what do you do to deal with all of that? Do you not offer these features, or do you have to be so ingenious in the way you design it out of the gate that that sort of problem is negated, or it's like a beta testing thing where they put it out there and then they have to figure out how to fix it when it's real world use?
Oh, look, I tend to agree with you. I mean, we put a lot of hurdles in front of life-saving medical, solutions, whether they're devices or whether they're pharmacological solutions to healthcare. It'll take 8 to 10 years to get some of those products that can change somebody's life to market. Why shouldn't we have that for tech? Just putting it out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And it just seems, yeah. But I don't know. I guess it's another example of what was that line? The Zuckerberg line. Move fast and break things.
But that's a 20th century tech mantra, right? These guys now are just they're not even doing stuff. They're getting AI to write the scripts for them to get results, and they don't even really know what the results are going to be or how they even work. I just don't think it's good enough now for these tech companies to think that they can write the rules. And a good example now is AI has captured everyone's imagination. We're all panicking about that, but no one's really worried about all this data or privacy invasion, which, do I really care if a department store knows what it can sell me? Maybe I do, maybe I don't. But I do care when individuals are being harassed by other individuals because somebody's left a back door open that they've got no control over, or then can come out and say, oh, we're going to have to work on this. It's not good enough.
And this all against the context, just to wrap it up, with things like headsets coming into play as well.
Yeah, exactly.
So I can only imagine what will happen once something like the Vision Pro, I'm sure they'll figure out a way to make it take off. And if we start using that more and more, then who knows what will happen from there.
And who's to say that those headsets aren't doing retinal scans on you and storing them somewhere for later?
There's something to think about just to finish up. All right, so it'll be an interesting space to see, but I guess in some ways we've been talking about this sort of thing for the better part of a decade, actually. And, we were concerned at the beginning with, the early, smart devices and whatnot. It's hard, like we're only 10 years later and look where we are.
That's right. It's certainly sliding, and we still don't seem to have any solutions for it. So good luck to everyone out there, but value privacy, because one day you won't have it at all.
Yeah, sobering thought. All right, Steve, we might wrap it up there, and I think I might actually go out and enjoy the extra 20 minutes of sun I get in Melbourne compared to Hobart today.
That's as long as it's not raining.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so don't forget to check out our website, scitechculture.com. You can get all of our links and content there. You can subscribe to our YouTube and Vimeo channels, our RSS feeds, and watch us on any and all of your devices, and we greatly appreciate your visits to our website. All right, so that's it for this episode. We'll catch you next time.